One piece of clothing that is very rarely seen in modern society is the cloak. For centuries, cloaks were pretty standard male and female attire in many countries, notably European ones, and remain so because of their practicality. A cloak differs from a cape, though they have a similar sartorial function. A cape is a shorter version of a cloak, the cloak being a long garment designed to protect the wearer from cold and inclement weather. The popularization of overcoats and greatcoats saw the cloak begin to be replaced as an everyday garment, though many militaries retained them as part of their uniforms. A notable user of cloaks was Adolf Hitler, its form and color giving him a rather sinister appearance. Hitler was often photographed and painted during the early years of his regime wearing greatcoats in the manner of a cloak thrown casually over the shoulders, and he even flirted with using black capes in the early 1930s, which actually looked rather ridiculous on him. But he did have a couple of cloak designs that he wore fairly frequently. This rainproof version that we see him wearing on the 20th of July 1944, when he greeted Italian dictator Benito Mussolini at the Wolf's Lair, just hours after the bomb which nearly killed him. He wore this garment because it was raining heavily, but also to hide his injured right arm from public view. But his favorite type of cloak was a heavy black woolen number with a velvet collar, that we see him wearing here during a visit by Mussolini to his private house, the Berghof on Obersalzberg in Bavaria. He had several of this design manufactured and used them when he didn't feel like wearing one of his woolen or leather greatcoats, something he could throw on over his uniform to wear for a short period of time. Here he wears the same type of cloak at the Wolf's Lair when he is in conference with Reichsfuhrer SS Heinrich Himmler. Again, you may notice that the black cloak gives a brooding, dark presence that may have been deliberate, particularly as the war started to turn against Hitler, and his public appearances became rarer and rarer. Hitler's clothing and personal effects were boxed up and removed from the Wolf's Lair when the Germans evacuated the complex in late November 1944, as the Red Army was approaching. His personal effects, including some of his uniforms, were deliberately dragged outside of the tunnels beneath his bombed house at Obersalzberg in Bavaria on his orders in mid-April 1945, and burned to prevent their capture by the advancing Americans. Hitler at the time being in his Berlin bunker, that city besieged by the Red Army. The Soviets, of course, captured some of his clothing in the bunker, but again fire was used to destroy much of it. But there was one place associated with Hitler where his personal effects were mostly intact, his Munich apartment. This apartment, located at 16 Prinzregentenplatz, in the most fashionable suburb of the city, had belonged to Hitler since 1929. It was captured by a unit of the US 45th Infantry Division on the 30th of April 1945, around the same time that Hitler died in Berlin. The apartment became the temporary headquarters of the 45th Division's 179th Infantry Regiment. The apartment was very thoroughly looted over the following days and weeks as GIs avidly hunted for souvenirs to send home. One soldier got his hands on some of Hitler's monogrammed silverware from the apartment and determined to ship it back home to his wife in Oklahoma City. He found a wooden ammunition box, then carefully packed the silver items using handfuls of Hitler's clothes as packing material, among them one of the Führer's black cloaks. It should be noted that the soldier didn't tell his wife that the clothes were Hitler's, deeming the silverware to be the only thing of value that he sent home. The clothes were actually thrown away on reaching Oklahoma City, all that is except his black cloak, which the wife took a liking to and kept for herself. Being several inches shorter than Hitler, she trimmed some of the material off the bottom and hemmed the cloak, and apparently wore it for several winters around Oklahoma City in the late 1940s. Eventually, it was put in a closet and forgotten about for 30 years, till the 1970s, when the 45th Infantry Division Museum was being formed, and a call went out to veterans for artifacts for display. The old soldier suggested the black woolen cloak, which mystified his wife, until he finally mentioned, 30 years after the event, that it had once belonged to Adolf Hitler. So one of the most iconic of Hitler's uniform accessories that appeared multiple times on film and photographs somehow survived the war, and today can be seen in a glass case at the 45th Infantry Division Museum in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I put a link to the museum in the description box if anyone wants to visit or check out their website. I think this story also reminds us that we should probably check the closets and attics of grandparents' houses, particularly those who'd served in any of the places I mentioned during World War II, as I'm sure there are some amazing treasures which still lie hidden even today. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.